Hey everyone, Tom Caffarella here from Cameron Real Estate Group. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the absolute need in my opinion, to build out your own real estate team. And so I'm going to tell you really quickly my real estate story and why I think it's critical that you start thinking about building a real estate team today. So going back 4 or 5 years, I was doing everything myself. I was the one running out to every seller appointment, every buyer appointment, getting contracts done, doing all the paperwork. And at the end of the day, I just kept running out of hours. And so the problem with being, a traditional real estate agent that doesn't have a team behind you is that number one, you end up doing a lot of things that are way below your pay grade. So you shouldn't be doing these low-level tasks. So that's the number one problem. The second problem is that the second that you stop working, you don't make money. So you go on vacation, you're not making money. You take 2 months off, you're not making money. You decide that you want to retire at age 55, you're not making money anymore, right? So building a real estate team allows you to make money even when you're not specifically working, right? And it's been such a huge benefit for me, even just in terms of being able to be where I want to be when I want to be there, right? Because before I built out my team, and I've got a team of over 150 agents right now as of today, before I had my team, if a seller wanted to meet with me tonight at 9 o'clock, well, guess what? I either met with them at 9 o'clock or I didn't get the business. So to me, just in terms of a long-term process, you absolutely want to build out a team, and it is your biggest leverage point as a real estate agent. And so building a team is kind of a buzzword, right? And I want to talk about the pros, the cons, and how you should specifically do it. I want to talk about the number one reason why anyone would even join your team, because it is important to figure out why would anyone want to even join you. And the number one reason why people join teams is leads, right? So you need to get really good at either learning how to generate leads or coming to a company like ours who has massive amount of leads. So for the people that are within my brokerage that actually want to build a team, they can leverage off of the leads that we already have to feed their team members. So they can attract team members to work underneath them utilizing our leads. So you can utilize our leads if you work for a company like ours, or you can do it completely on your own. But one way or the other, if you don't have leads to hand your team members, it's going to be difficult. There's not going to be a ton of value proposition that you can give to them. The second thing is obviously giving them guidance, because when somebody is new to the business, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to generate leads. They don't know how to process deals. So you essentially are serving as their mentor. But again, if you don't have leads, right, the problem with becoming their mentor and working with them for 6 months or a year or 2 years, once they begin to learn everything, you don't have something to keep them on your team. So if you want to keep agents on your team over the long haul, for sure, you need to have leads. And so I want to talk a little bit about having leads, right? What do you need to do in order to make sure that it works for you? So again, if you're at a company like ours and you can just plug into our lead generation systems, take on team members and feed them leads that way, that's one way to do it. But if you're going to pay for leads yourself, you have to make sure, obviously, that you're making money on those leads, which then becomes a process in itself. So when I first started, I thought I'd pay for Zillow leads, I'd pay for Trulia leads, I'd do mailers, I'd do all of this marketing, generate leads, hand a lead off to my team member, and they would close the deal. But the reality of the situation is that when you hand off leads to a team member, there needs to be extreme accountability. And it's something that, again, I never really even thought about before I started building out my team. But learn from my mistakes. I burnt tons of money on leads with people that did not have accountability. So I would hand out a buyer lead and I would say, hey, go ahead, go work it. And then they wouldn't follow up. They wouldn't make calls. They wouldn't do what I thought they would automatically know how to do. And part of building a team is teaching somebody what needs to be done. So most new agents don't understand that once they get a lead, they need to treat it like gold. They need to call, text, and email that lead every day for the first 10 days, right? And if you're new to the business, well, why should you know that? Why should you already know what an experienced agent knows? You don't. So half of the battle of giving someone on your team leads is understanding and training them what needs to be done, the proper follow-up. What do they do before the appointment when they're making the call? What do they do when they're face-to-face? What do they do once they get out and start working with a buyer or start working with a seller, right? So that's a process in itself. But the second component to that is having tracking mechanisms in place to make sure that they are following protocol. So how do you measure whether or not a lead is actually getting followed up with, and what are your standards and what are your expectations for that agent that are on your team? So the way that we do it here in our brokerage, and again, for the people in our company at Cameron who want to build out their own teams, they're able to leverage off of our systems. So the system that we have is that I have a full-time sales manager, and she gets reports on a day-to-day basis on who's making their follow-up calls, who's not making their follow-up calls. How many people who went on so many appointments that week and what was their conversion ratio, and many more statistics. So it's really important that you are measuring and constantly measuring and holding the agents on your team accountable to these stats. Because at the end of the day, if you're not measuring their progress, it's not going to benefit either of you, because the agent is then not going to know whether or not they're doing the right things, and you are not going to know whether or not you're getting the return on your investment that you should be getting. So if you're spending $1,000 a month on Zillow leads, you need to know, what are the expectations? Are you going to make $2,000? Are you going to make $3,000? What's normal? How many times should your agent follow up with the leads? What should they be saying? What are the scripts? Right? So again, my sales manager internally handles all that. So that's a system that you can either, again, build yourself, or if you came to our brokerage, the sales manager would actually manage that component for you, right? But it is super important. The other thing is you need to have weekly check-ins, right? You need to have weekly check-ins with each agent that's on your team. And if you get big enough, obviously you can start doing this in a more of a group setting. But ideally, you would have one-on-one meetings for at least 20 to 30 minutes a week to do a quick recap and go over what the goals are for the coming week. And so we do that with each and every agent that's taking leads within our company, okay? So again, I want to go back to some of the benefits of building a team for sure. The admin part of it is huge. So for every agent that signs on to be with one of our team leaders, there's going to be a trade-off between the time with a new agent and the time with the experienced agent. And this is where it gets really, really beneficial for the experienced agent that's growing a team, right? So what you're going to do in the very beginning is you're going to train that newer agent to do all of the things that you're doing at a very, very low level. So meeting for, to get a smoke certificate, running documents, putting documents into .loop, getting signatures, putting signs in the ground. All of the administrative part is what you're going to teach a new agent on day one. And essentially within the first couple of weeks of them being on your team, that will allow you to get most of your administrative things off of your plate. And getting your administrative things off of your plate will then allow you and free you up and have the time to coach these people. Because you're probably thinking right now, well, I don't have the time to coach people. I don't have the time to manage whether or not they're following up with leads. But you will if you do it the right way, and if you have that newer person take over all of the administrative tasks that you're doing. And so the long-term vision, right? So where I've come in the last 5 years is now I've got a team of 150 agents that take every single one of my buyer and seller leads, right? I don't do any face-to-faces anymore, which allows me to focus on building my business. And again, it gives me the freedom, the flexibility. I can, if I decide tomorrow I want to go on vacation for 2 weeks, I can. If I decide I want to put two straight weeks of work into shooting videos like this or doing other things within my business, I'm freed up because of that team. So to me, building a team is the ultimate leverage point in real estate, and it's essential to learn how to do it the right way. I've got much more to say on team building, so if you want additional information, I've shot a longer video that will go into much more details about how do we track leads, how do we manage the new agents, what do we look for when we're bringing a team member on, how do we mix and match experienced agents with newer agents. So to get more information on building a team, go to www.workingwithinvestors.com. If you go to www.workingwithinvestors.com, you're going to see a one-page landing page. You're going to be able to put in your email and your name. And what happens when you enter that in is, number one, you're going to get the longer video. And number two, you're going to be added to my private Facebook group. And my private Facebook group is a Q&A style Facebook group where you can go in there 24/7, 365 and ask a question. So if you watch this video or another video that I have and you have a follow-up, can you send me the sheet that you use to track the progress? What CRM do you use to manage your leads, etc.? You can go into that private Facebook group, type the question, and I will get you the answer within 24 hours. So again, go to www.workingwithinvestors.com, put in your name, put in your email. You're going to get a ton more value, and I'll talk to you later. Thank you.